The end is nigh. The end of 2019 that is, but don't fret too much, the new year has a ton of great games to look forward to. Democratic nominee Joe Biden told 60 Minutes on Sunday that he could provide free 4-year college education for $150 billion, but his campaign was forced to admit after the interview that the cost would be double that. During a 60 Minutes interview with Norah O'Donnell, Biden said he would usher in significant institutional changes, beginning with a proposed 15% tax on corporations that would raise hundreds of billions of dollars. I can send every single qualified person to a 4-year college in their state for $150 billion, Biden said. If you haven't been following the hype meters, worry not, we've compiled a list with some of the most anticipated games of 2020. Here is our top 10 games to look forward to in 2020. 1. Cyberpunk 2077 release date, April 16, 2020. Cyberpunk 2077 is arguably the RPG to beat in 2020, and it hasn't even released yet. With CD Projekt Red at the helm, the acclaimed developer behind the Witcher series, expectations are high and climbing higher by the month. If an RPG set in a technologically advanced dystopian future with a gritty storyline and grisly combat doesn't sell you, perhaps the inclusion of Keanu Reeves will. 2. Marvel's Avengers release date, May 15, 2020. It's time for Earth's mightiest heroes to assemble once again, but this time, they'll need the help of Ms. I can make sure every single person who qualifies for community college can go, and we still have a lot of money left over. But O'Donnell noted that the Tax Policy Center had questioned whether Biden's corporate tax rate would raise that much money. His own campaign then admitted that the former VP's numbers were inaccurate. After our interview, Mr. Marvel to bring the group back together. Aside from a storyline that will undoubtedly rub Marvel and superhero fans in all the right places, Marvel's Avengers will provide a leveling and loot system in addition to the multiplayer content geared for 4-person co-op missions. Is this the Marvel game we've all been waiting for? Many true believers think it is. 3. Halo Infinite release date, TBA 2020. He's back. Master Chief has returned, and this time it's personal. By personal, we mean that players should expect Halo Infinite to follow Master Chief on a brand new adventure, instead of splitting the narrative between 2 separate storylines like in Halo 5. 343 Industries has assured players that they've been paying attention to what works, and what doesn't in the Halo franchise, and fans should expect a game that capitalizes on Halo's achievements over the years. Halo Infinite will be releasing alongside the Xbox Series X, but will also release on the PC as well. 4. Final Fantasy VII Remake release date, March 3, 2020. Final Fantasy VII is arguably the most celebrated Final Fantasy title of all time. Biden's staff told us he misspoke, and that the cost of free public college could be twice as much as he said, O'Donnell said. The 77-year-old presidential contender has assured voters that Americans earning under $400,000 a year would pay a cent more in taxes. High-earning New Yorkers could be slugged with federal and state tax rates of more than 58%, a new study from the DC-based Tax Foundation found. Even for those that aren't very familiar with Final Fantasy, both Cloud and Sephiroth are 2 characters that are easily recognizable, which is a testament to the astounding popularity of the title. Square Enix surprised everyone, most notably the fans, when they released the trailer indicating a remake was on the way, but they astounded even non-fans of Final Fantasy when they released a gameplay trailer with stunning graphics and a hybridized action RPG combat system that aims to please fans of the series both new and old. 5. Torchlight Frontiers release date, TBA 2020. Fans of the ARPG should know the Torchlight series by now. After Torchlight 2 hit the stage, the idea of opening the world of Torchlight in a massive multiplayer way was floated, and fans gave a resounding yes to the possibility. After the announcement and alpha of Torchlight Frontiers began, many were expecting a 2019 release date. As many MMO gamers can attest to, the best thing any developer can do for their fans is wait to release a game until it's ready, and that's exactly what Ectra Games has been hard at work doing. With feedback from players in alpha, Torchlight Frontiers is shaping up to be one of the best online games of 2020. 6. The Last of Us, Part 2 release date, May 29, 2020. Action-adventure titles have come a long way in the last decade. With some very high-profile and much-anticipated headliners on the horizon, none may be as anticipated as the sequel to the PlayStation-exclusive title, The Last of Us.
In a sequel that aims to be twice as brutal, Naughty Dog has shifted focus in The Last of Us Part 2 to Ellie, in an effort to expand a story that has us captivated, and awaiting a continuance. If you haven't checked out the gameplay for this one yet, Do yourself a favor and do so now, you won't be disappointed. 7 New World release date. May 26, 2020. Tally ho. It's unlikely that many explorers actually said that when they found the New World, but in New World by Amazon Game Studios, you can say whatever the hell you want as you quest your way into the colonization of a new land. Team up, find treasures, forge and craft, and attempt to stay alive on a wild supernatural continent in this survival-inspired MMO that is certainly a departure from your average theme park experience. 8 Phantasy Star Online 2 Western release date. TBA Spring 2020. Some would argue that Phantasy Star Online 2 has been out for the greater part of a decade already, and in a way, that is true. However, Phantasy Star Online 2 is now making its way to Western audiences, and fans of the series that have waited hoping for a Western version can rejoice. While we are still awaiting more direct information regarding what, if anything, may be changing, one thing is for certain: Phantasy Star Online 2 has plenty of content that will undeniably keep players busy as more story components, classes, and advanced customization options have been added over the years, and will certainly be pushed over to the Western version at some point. For those that may not be sure what platform to get it on, don't worry, as Phantasy Star Online 2 will allow for cross-play between PC and Xbox One. 9 Grounded release date. TBA Spring 2020. As far as survival games go, the 2010s were rife with so many different survival titles that it could be hard to determine which ones were truly worth their cost of admission. Obsidian Entertainment, the much-beloved studio behind some of the greatest titles of the past decade, knows this, and aims to change our perspective on the survival genre, literally. In Grounded, players will shrink down in a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids way, as they attempt to find their way back to their original size. The real marvel of this story isn't just the premise, it's not that almost all of the world is destructible and usable, or even that there's a vast number of items to craft. Rather, the coolest thing about Grounded is the AI-simulated world, teeming with all manner of animals that will be affected by your presence, and behave according to the impact you make on their world. 10 Minecraft Dungeons release date. TBA April 2020. Love it or hate it, Minecraft is one of, if not the biggest title of the past decade. We've seen this tiny voxel game turn into a behemoth that has now shifted from a simple building game, to Minecraft Story Mode, an educational title, Minecraft toys and even clothes. If you haven't seen the Minecraft Dungeons trailer yet and feel skeptical that this title will deliver any enjoyable ARPG gameplay, it's worth a look. With a small driving narrative, Minecraft Dungeons won't break heavily from what we can expect from an action RPG, with 4-player co-op being an integral part of the questing dynamic. Why does Minecraft Dungeons make the list, you ask? Aside from the vast amount of loot options players can expect, the enchantment system and procedurally generated world will keep players coming back, looting, enchanting, and repeating in ways that will rival your favorite ARPGs.